Hey there. So today I'm here with Elies Hadi, and she is a starseed healer and a light language activator. And we haven't really spoken that much about starseed stuff here on the Spiritual Seekers podcast. So I thought this was a good opportunity. So welcome, Elies.
Thanks for having me here, Karen. So excited to be here.
Yeah, and you reached out to me directly on Instagram, and I always find that more appealing because sometimes I get solicited by third parties and I get aggravated by that. So I just felt your genuine enthusiasm like through your message, and I was just like, I'm down, let's do it. I just trusted the energy. I didn't even really do much else other than trusting it. And like I peeked in at your page and I don't know, I just felt like good about it. So I don't know anything about you other than that you're doing this work, but we're in the same umbrella of world work here. So
hmm
tell us about yourself and what you do now, and then I'll ask you other questions about your past and stuff too.
Cool. And I love that you trust the vibe because that's how I roll as well. Because, I always say you can write like the best copy, but people feel it if it is like, not like
Mhm.
it's bad or anything. It's just a match or not. So thanks for sharing that.
Sure.
And yeah, so right now I'm based in Indonesia. That's also where I come from. And I'm a starseed healer, like language activator. And I basically help light workers, starseed, and healers to embody their highest vision. And I do this through light language, through Akashic records, angel healing, soul coaching, and like a mix and match of like a few modalities.
Right.
And that's kind of basically where I am right now. And I'm also helping light workers to actually build their 5D business
Mhm.
from a perspective as a new earth leaders, like to kind of like put aside all the old marketing and old business
Mhm.
stuff, and like really tap into that consciousness and doing it in a 5D way. That's why I call it like a 5D business for new
Right.
earth leaders. Yeah, so that's where I am right now
And
and
yeah,
continuously evolving like we all do.
well, the light worker word, I don't think is that weird or new to people who listen to this show, but just in the off chance, can you explain what a light worker is?
So light workers, the way I define it is as simple as people who come here to share and spread light into the world, and hence the name pretty literally. And in fact, I don't really like the word light worker because it feels like, oh, there is work. But I still use the term just so that people understand it. Because if I come up with a totally new term, people are gonna be like, "What are you talking about?" So I kind of love it more like a light leaders,
Yeah,
if
I
that
also
even
hear
makes more
way shower,
sense.
like way showers
Yeah,
word. So
exactly.
yeah, and that
Yeah.
same kind of feeling behind that. I had these teenage girls that were looking to volunteer at my store, and I met them last year because I hosted a teen camp for spiritual kids,
Hmm.
and
Wow.
they both really like shined. So I was so happy that they came around this year to be like, can we help you here? And when we met together last week, and I said to them, you guys know what light workers are, right? And they're like, and I'm like, and I broke it down for them, and I'm like, it's like, this is a big assignment, you're here to help change the planet. Like, it was so funny, and they cut right to the chase, like, you guys, your regular people might not understand you, but you make an impact by just being who you are, and the
Exactly.
circles that you infiltrate will be better because you're in it, and the energy you bring. It was just such a cool, like, mentoring, like, kind of space to be in with these adorable gifted old souls. So it's just awesome. And the star seed aspect, do you want to explain that as well?
Yeah, so starseed basically are soul who incarnated on this earth in this lifetime. However, they originate from the star, and hence the name starseed.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool if you think about it, how the name is pretty literal.
Mm-hmm.
However, you don't know what you don't know until you know. So that's pretty much my definition of starseed and light workers.
Right.
And I just want to kind of quickly add on that I'm so happy that you are providing those space for the teenagers, because it is often really challenging for light workers who still do not know they are one, especially at that age, right? They
Yeah.
might find like they are a little bit weird or like not belonging, and then having that space and that mentor definitely help the transition. So yeah, I'm
Yeah.
so happy you're doing that.
Yeah. It's really just, it's just a great position to be in. And it's just awesome because as a 16-year-old, I was waking up to an interest in those things, but I didn't have the language and I didn't have anybody who could guide me on that at all, you know? So it's just so cool to kind of like, you know,
And
carry.
we didn't have internet at the time.
Yeah, right. I know. Just had a book section at the bookstore, you know, a couple shelves to go through. So yeah, for sure, it's great. And then I listened earlier. I was walking my dog, and I listened to a few of your videos about like what is a star seed, like part 1, 2, and 3, and you mentioned the different origins. And like I had gotten some Akashic record readings done in the past, and I have a connection to a few different things. Of course, you know, there's lots of layers. It's not just one that you came from or that you had a lifetime in. So, but I was curious right now when you said, like, you know, it's from the stars, but then Lemurian and Atlantean times are from Earth. So, how is that like, if you're a star seed with a Lemurian connection, isn't that just ancient Earth? Does that still count as a star seed? You know what I mean? Like, I just wasn't sure
Oh,
how what your take would be on that. Like how are we supposed to really break this down? But I just thought that was an interesting point to make. So I was just curious what you thought.
yeah, that is a great one. So actually, a broader explanation for starseed actually is also including other parts that are not stars.
Right.
Sorry, other parts that are
Like
not the earth, meaning
other realms, like
yes, anything that is not from the earth, but primarily the stars when we
mhm,
refer to it, but it includes like Lemurian and all those things.
right.
And I keep it simple with the context of starseed, kind of just to keep things
Yeah.
simple, because
Yeah.
I don't want to go into talking about ET. And
Right.
you know, like because
Yeah.
technically some people lump that under the starseed umbrella as well. And also just to share a little bit on my understanding, like from my understanding, and originally, you know, like the Palladian Star Mother are the one who come here and seed humanity,
Right.
and Palladian come from the star.
Okay.
So that's like kind of like the origin. I don't have the timeline, like long, long time
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like it evolved, and then it kind of moved on into like Lemuria and Atlantis and things like that.
Mhm.
But if you kind of like trace it back, Lemuria and Atlantis kind of come from that star in terms of descendant in that sense, not necessarily like literally from the star. So I hope
Right.
this clarify the
You know, that's
definition and the
cool. Yeah. Yeah. Because
question. Yeah.
The Palladians are who kind of came down and started with, I guess, this version of existence on Earth, like with
Yeah.
the human, the seed of the human and what we bring to the picture, I guess. I don't know. It can be so abstract
Yeah.
to talk about. So it's weird to try to make it logical. So I'm trying to in a way, but because I had a connection with the Palladians. And now what else? Who are the tall blue guys? Is that Andromedans? Who's the tall, like I feel like there's tall blue uh
It
alien
depends on
species.
how you see it though.
Oh,
So I
okay.
don't really I know people do describe them like that, but I don't really like to put a name to it, because like
Right.
what is tall? Like tall for you might not be tall for me.
Right.
But generally for me, the blue is usually for sure Palladian. It has the color of
Okay.
blue.
Okay.
So it depends on
I
which
thought it
tall
was
blue guy
Palladian.
you're looking at.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember like a long time ago when I was doing a sound healing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
before I even thought about starseed stuff, I don't think. But during the sound healing, I felt like I saw some tall blue folks walking around the room, you know, while I was in the meditative state, like half asleep. So I remember someone being like, and I couldn't remember if it was Palladian or Andromeda, and that's why I asked. But I know I have like a Palladian connection,
Mm-hmm.
and many others. I don't know them all. I know in the Akashic, one of the ones I was told was Mintakan, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know much about that. You know, I don't spend that much time dissecting that stuff. So what is like your area of specialty then when you talk about these things to people? Like where does it go? Like what do sessions with you look like?
So for me, I don't really focus so much about where exactly you come from, because
Mhm.
as you have shared yourself, it means nothing until
Right.
it means something.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just like a bunch of paper that I tell you. I can even give you the date and time and what you are doing there, but it means nothing until you are ready or you
Mm-hmm.
need the information. And
Right.
it's not just about Starseed, right? In general, that's how Akashic record work. Like I'm not someone who is into reading in the sense that I'm giving you the history per se, but just understanding whatever that needs to come up comes up.
Okay.
So just to kind of set that context, and a session like me looks different depending on who you are, why you are here, and what you want out of the session. But
Mm-hmm.
generally, for example, in my Starseed Awakening course, what I help people to go through is that they get to actually remember their Starseed gifts and activate their starseed codes within them, like kind of having that remembrance and activation of their magic, if you may,
Mm-hmm.
and like really getting really crystal clear on like their mission, whether it is their personal mission or whether it's their collective mission. So it really gave them this clearer sense of who they are, why they are here, and what are they here to share with the world. And hence, like sometimes starseed also are light workers. So, like starseed light workers is also another term that is being said.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of like what I work on when we talk about the starseed.
And in your video, I thought it might be good to say the same things that you kind of mentioned in the video, like what, like you might be a star seed if dot dot dot, like 7 signs of being a star seed or whatever your video was. So what would people, how would people like connect to that? What would be an over, I know being an empath or being drawn to the healing world is one aspect, but I forget everything else you mentioned.
Okay. Yeah, I know which video you're talking about. So I think what will be the best is we will drop that playlist down so they can listen to the whole thing. Because
Right,
that video alone is 15 minutes. So if
right,
I explain it, that's like half of our podcast.
right,
However, if I were to like share a highlight as to
right.
like the most common one that is almost like most of my students say like they are having this sign, is that they feel this sense of like wanting to go home,
Mm-hmm.
yearning and longing for home,
Mm-hmm.
and not belonging. So these are like the most common one, which kind of make logical sense if you think about it, because you come from a foreign world, so to speak, and then you are here on Earth. It's like if I were to move to Africa today, it's a place I've never stayed in. Everything's gonna be unfamiliar, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna not feel so much at home and not belonging, things like that. So that's kind of how a starseed often feel, and that's like the two most common signs.
Yeah.
But I break it down with more details and examples in the videos you mentioned, so people can have a better understanding on that.
Okay. And now, how did you get into this? That's another curious thing that, like, a lot of times people have where they were a child and someone told them, you're making this up, you're crazy, or did your parents support
Mm-hmm.
you, or did it come up later in life? Like, what's your story as to how you got here?
For me, it come up much later in life. I've always been surrounded by starseed, but I just didn't think I'm one, which is funny, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like the concept was never new because I have all the logical understanding about it. But just as you were sharing, right, it means nothing for me until one day I woke up in the middle of the night when I was in Bali, and I look up at the stars, and I felt this profound sense of coming home
Mm-hmm.
that is so deep into my bone and my heart and every single cells of my body. That sense of bliss or peace, if you may, that I cannot find words for it. And I remember being in awe and wonder, and I was just transcended like into another dimension, if you
Mm-hmm.
may. And I felt instantly that this is it. And I heard a voice, which is like the confirmation of everything, that said, "You are home, and we are always with you."
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I'm like, oh, I'm a starseed. And then I remember looking back and I was like, that took you long enough to realize when you have like all your starseed family around you, like your people call it soul family, right? As I was saying, I was surrounded by starseed, and apparently those information wasn't enough until I was ready. I mean, it was so random. I just look up at the stars and like, who will be thinking about that when they look up at the stars? I'm just like wanting to see how beautiful they are. But then that awakening moment is beautiful.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then the light language aspect of things. So light language, I when I'm talking about that to people who don't know what light language is, I say it sounds like Star Wars talk. Like in Star Wars when they were talking, they do sound like that, you know, some of the other creatures and things. So and I know a few people that do channel light language. Do you know, so light language, you want to explain what that is and then how it works for you? Like what happens? Do you understand what's happening, or are you almost translating it in your mind, like you know what the meaning is of what you're saying? Like I'm curious because I don't have any experience with that personally.
So light language is basically energy transmission, and it can be expressed through sound, through visual, as well as through movement, depending on the channeler. So I work with all of them, but primarily with sound. So you're gonna listen to some of the sample in my YouTube as well.
Right.
And I actually first channel it randomly, meaning to say I was in the middle of a session with my mentor and it was a writing session, wasn't even related to light language. And she was like, oh, your light language is ready. And I'm like, nope, it's not ready. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she just guided me through a process. So the next thing I know, I was speaking light language. And at first I also thought like, oh, this sounded so weird. But then, I just started speaking it. And, the more I work with it, then I understand it on a more personal level and have deeper experience and understanding. And to answer your question, I generally have like an overall feeling and theme of it, but it's not necessarily a word per word translation,
Right.
because what it does, because it's called light language, so people have the association that it's like a language, but it's more of about the light than the language, if it makes sense. It's like what is being translated is actually energy and frequency, that you don't have to put words into frequency and energy. Just like when you go into energy healing, you're not trying to dissect the energy. And just because this comes with sound, people went on like, oh, I want to know what is being talked about.
Yeah.
But when people are actually using hand, they are not trying to understand the hand movement, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, because like I've said this before on my show, but like I make crystal grids, and a friend of mine, that is light language, like what I'm doing, because I do these elaborate ones that just kind of get channeled through me. So I know, and then I've seen the handwriting of it, and everyone's version, even if they vary, they all seem kind of similar. It's so interesting. So yeah, it's just like your guides are channeling some kind of energy transmission through you, and you, by just speaking it, it helps affect the person making a shift or whatever. Like what has your experiences been like? Do they always happen when you're doing like one-on-one sessions, or do people like request it, or like how does it work?
So usually I use light language as part of my toolbox, if you may, when people work with me. So
As
whether it
needed.
is
Yeah, if it's
if it is
needed.
one-on-one or group, exactly, and also whether it's needed or whether the openness of the person and where they are in their journey as well. But generally I do use it in most of my work because it's so part of me that it just come out. And I use it for different purpose, but one common thing that I definitely always use it is to open heart, because it doesn't matter what you are working with. That's like the primary fundamental. And people tend to sometimes get very fancy with spiritual work, especially when they go later on in their journey and they want to get fancy stuff. But I always say that, fundamental is like everything. Like if your heart is not open, I can channel like the most advanced thing if there is such a thing even, yeah.
Right.
But if you are not open, you're not open. So like heart opening is like one I definitely do
Mm-hmm.
with every session.
Yeah.
And light language is one of them that I use it. And a lot of feedback that I get from students, whether it is from the heart healing or other kind of light language, is that they felt that they really are able to open their heart and like bypass their mind, especially if they have heard it the second time or the third time. And a lot of them actually felt a lot of energy in the body. That's the
Mm-hmm.
most common one I heard. And my students are not necessarily all body worker,
Right.
but yet like they become really conscious with this because of the strong vibration and energy that's being activated, that they often felt something in the crown or something in the body and things like that. And that frequency and the energy, the same way that it might have similar to other modality, is that
Right.
it just higher frequency just
Yeah.
dissolve like the fear and the blocks and things like that. It's
Yeah.
just another healing modality, if you may.
Yeah. Like vibrational. It's just vibrational healing.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
like trying to explain that is like
Mm-hmm.
we are doing
Yeah.
our best to explain energy here.
Right. I know. Whenever I teach people about Reiki, I'm like, it's vibrational healing. So are crystals, so are oils, so can be music, so it's just,
Exactly.
yeah, it's just another form of vibration. So do you work with more clients or students? Like what's your main business? Like what's your focus for work?
So my focus is usually on Starseed Lightworker and no Starseed Light Language as well as business alchemy. So the Starseed part is like earlier when I mentioned Starseed Awakening cards to help
Right.
people, learn everything about Starseed, remember who they are, why they are here, and what they are
And
meant to do
is
relating
that
to Starseed.
is that course like something that people take on their own at home, or
Yeah.
they don't meet with you weekly or whatever, like they can just take by like 6 classes or something like that? Like how do you have it set up?
Yeah, that is a on-demand course. So it is a self-study course, self-paced. Is a beginner course, if you may. Beginner, not necessarily like in the journey, but in terms of like,
Yeah,
it's
the
it
foundation. Yeah.
is smaller course, not like a 3 months program, if you
Right.
know what I mean. So the light language one is I help people to activate light language.
Mm-hmm.
So helping them to learn how to speak their light language.
Mm-hmm.
And this one comes in both on-demand course as well as one-on-one session.
Okay.
And the other pillar is the 5D Business Alchemy, which is my latest edition. And that is for people who are more already, having their own light worker or healing business, who wants to really build and expand their business from a soul and heart perspective. And kind of like, as I was sharing earlier in the beginning, to really unlearn everything you learn about business and everything you see online, like right, things like 5-step formula, and like you have to post every day, and then like just drop all of that and then
Yeah.
like come out with your own soul strategy. So that's kind of the business part of it, which is actually very supportive with the other two, because once you realize you're a starseed and you have a mission, then what now, right? Or you learn how to speak light language, then what now? And this is not just in light language. I've seen it a lot. People take courses, whether it is Reiki. It's so easy to take courses these days, right? Like you
Yeah.
just go online and you take Reiki course, and whatever course you can get certified within like X amount of time. Then what now?
Mm-hmm.
Like, of course, you can use it only for personal healing if that is your choice, and that's beautiful.
Right.
However, if you want to bring it out to the world, then what now? So that is the reason why I added like the business component to
Yeah.
actually support the other two as well.
Well, that's good. I know, because I hate the business stuff so much. Like I really do. My husband makes fun of me because I'm like, he's like, "Oh, that's a business thing." Like if I have to do something that's very business like, he'll be like, "Oh, no, Karen, business." I'm like, "I know. I don't like having to do business things sometimes." But the marketing and like the strategies, like you're saying, like they just make me mad. I had to like unfollow, or like, please stop showing me these ads. Like I don't want to see any more strategies on how to get your list bigger. And all of that stuff. It just frustrates me. So, so you're just
Yeah,
more
but the
support.
reason we are feeling that way is because it's not aligned with our strategy, right? We
Yeah.
have our own strategy inside, right? Which is why once you tune into your own strategy, it's gonna feel fun because
Mm,
it's meant to be fun. But
right.
because of just we are being so bombarded and
Right.
brainwashed even,
Yeah.
that it made us feel icky. And that's like the whole point of alchemizing that and transforming that into abundance, into
Mm,
love, so that we can share more of our light with the world.
yeah. I know it's much better when it just happens organically because you were inspired and you
Mm-hmm.
the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's like our people are
Mm-hmm.
out there. They find us in peculiar ways. I mean, one of my favorite teachers that I don't know personally, like some online,
Mm.
I remember just being at her website being like, I don't even know how I ended up here. So
Exactly.
yeah. It's like, how did I get here? And I'm like, I think I need to get this book. And then I got the book and then then I became, a follower of her and then so on. But it's just I like it when things just are divinely orchestrated rather than strategized. So
Exactly.
is there anything more that you want to share? Like, I don't even know what else to ask you about.
No, I think we've covered everything. So it's pretty much it. So yeah, and I guess like if you are new, like people who are listening or watching, you want to know whether you are starseed. As Karen was sharing earlier, there are these 3 parts video where I was sharing how to know if you're starseed and healing your starseed wound. And there was a light language transmission at part number 3.
Right.
So if you listen to that 3 parts, it will give you a really great understanding to begin your starseed path. And then, of course, if you want to deepen your journey, whether it is in starseed light language or even in the 5D business, then you can find all those information in my website, which is elieshadi.com, and we're going to put it all down in the show note.
Well, very good. I appreciate your time. It was nice talking to you. And we're, 8 o'clock at night on the East Coast, and you're what, 7 in the morning in Indonesia.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad we could coordinate it. So thank you for
Thank
sharing your
you,
gift.
Karen.
And yeah, we'll talk soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.